Today we're comparing the DJI Neo and the Neo 2. One of them is a drone and the other one is a gentle reminder that some products age faster than others. Well, let's find out which one is worth carrying and which one is better off completing its journey. In the recycle bin. Hi guys, welcome back to our drone channel. The DJI Neo was a fun little entry drone for casual pilots. Small, lightweight, easy to use and surprisingly capable for its size. Now, the Neo 2 is here and at first glance it looks like a massive step forward. But is it really worth moving from the original Neo to the Neo 2? That's the big question we're going to answer today. We'll break down everything that matters: design, handling, camera performance, stabilization, flight time, sensing, reliability, tracking and all the new tech that changes how this drone actually flies in the real world. And yes, some heated discussions are already happening, especially around whether the first generation Neo becomes completely pointless the moment you see what the Neo 2 delivers. By the end of this video, you'll know whether the Neo 2 is just a nice upgrade or if it's the drone that makes keeping the original Neo absolutely unnecessary. The first generation Neo and the Neo 2 follow the same fundamental design philosophy: compact, lightweight and fully enclosed for safe flying in tight environments. But when you put them side by side, the differences become immediately visible. The original Neo weighs 135 grams, making it extremely light and easy to carry. The Neo 2 increases that to 151 grams or around 160 grams when equipped with a digital transceiver. Both remain far below the 250 gram threshold, so from a legal standpoint, there is no added complexity. The additional weight of the Neo 2 contributes to its increased stability in the air. In terms of dimensions, the Neo measures roughly 13 by 16 by 5 cm with an 18 cm diameter. The Neo 2 grows slightly to 15 by 17 by 4 cm and a 19 cm diameter. The form factor remains nearly identical, but the Neo 2 has a firmer, more rigid frame that feels more refined in handling and durability. Both drones feature a full propeller cage that protects the rotors from all sides. On the Neo 2, the cage structure is tighter and more robust, reducing the chance of accidental contact and improving overall structural stiffness. This contributes to its more stable presence during flight. While the propellers themselves have been redesigned, the first generation Neo produces a sharper, higher-pitched sound, while the Neo 2 uses a new blade geometry that lowers the pitch and reduces overall noise. The difference is noticeable even before formal measurements. The Neo 2 simply sounds smoother and less intrusive. From the outside, you'll also notice a clear difference in sensor placement. The first generation Neo uses a basic downward sensor suited for takeoff and landing assistance, while the Neo 2 adds multiple visual sensors around the whole body and a forward-facing LiDAR unit. Well, we will explore what these sensors actually do later in the sensing chapter. Controls have evolved as well. The first generation Neo offers a single multifunction button on top of the drone, and the Neo 2 introduces a redesigned button layout with dedicated controls placed along the lower edge of the frame. How these buttons change the user experience is something we will discuss in the handling chapter. One of the most obvious visual upgrades is the display. The Neo uses only a small LED bar to show the current mode. And the Neo 2 integrates a full front-mounted display that presents mode information and system status in clear, readable text. On the rear side, both drones feature only a USB-C port with no microSD card slot. The Neo 2 adds 4 mounting points around the port to attach the optional digital transceiver. Finally, flight performance is reflected in the physical design. The Neo reaches up to 6 meters per second and handles wind around 5 meters per second. The Neo 2 increases this significantly to 12 meters per second and improved wind resistance, which aligns with its sturdier build and revised aerodynamics. Both the DJI Neo and the Neo 2 offer multiple ways to fly the drone, and at first glance, their control option looks similar. Both support autonomous flight mode, both can be flown with a remote controller, both can operate in full FPV using goggles and a motion controller, and both can be controlled directly from a smartphone over Wi-Fi. But the important difference is this: the Neo 2 only unlocks RC control and full FPV when the digital transceiver is installed. Without the transceiver, the Neo 2 is limited to autonomous flight and simple Wi-Fi control. With the digital transceiver, however, it becomes a fully capable RC and FPV drone with a far more stable link than the first generation Neo ever had. The original Neo often struggled with signal reliability. Under tree canopies or in partially obstructed environments, the connection weakened quickly. Satellites were lost faster and the drone occasionally drifted or behaved unpredictably until the link recovered. It was not unsafe, but it was clearly limited. The Neo 2 improves this dramatically. The revised frame, tighter cage and increased weight already make it more stable in the air. With the transceiver installed, the connection becomes significantly more reliable, especially when flying around light obstacles or at greater distance. The drone holds its position better, responds more consistently, and overall feels far more locked in than the first generation Neo. Gesture control is the biggest handling upgrade. It allows you to launch, reposition frame and record using simple hand movements without touching a controller or phone. For solo users, hikers, cyclists or creators filming themselves, this is a genuine game changer. It makes the Neo 2 faster to operate and opens shooting scenarios that are simply not possible with the original Neo. Both drones rely on physical function buttons during autonomous flight, but the way they are implemented is very different. The original Neo uses a single multifunction button on the top of the drone to switch modes and start the aircraft. It works, but depending on how you hold the drone, you often need to adjust your grip to reach it. The Neo 2 introduces a redesigned 3-button layout positioned along the lower side edge of the frame. 2 buttons handle mode switching and in-mode adjustment, while a dedicated 3rd button starts the drone. Because these buttons sit where your fingers naturally rest when holding the drone from below, changing modes or confirming actions become faster, more precise and noticeably more intuitive. This improved ergonomics directly enhances the overall handling experience. In everyday flying, indoors, outdoors, in wind and in tighter spaces, the Neo 2 feels more stable, predictable and responsive. The combination of its design refinements and stronger transmission makes it a clear step ahead of the original Neo in almost every handling scenario. The original DJI Neo uses a 1/2-inch CMOS sensor with 12 megapixels and an f/2.8 aperture. It records video in 4K at up to 30 frames per second, either in 16:9 with electronic image stabilization or in 4:3 at the same frame rate. In good lighting, the Neo delivers sharp, perfectly usable results for a small entry-level drone. But as soon as the light drops or the scene becomes more dynamic, the limitations of both the sensor and the stabilization becomes obvious. The Neo 2 keeps the same 1/2-inch 12 megapixel sensor but improves the aperture to f/2.2. This allows noticeably more light onto the sensor, resulting in cleaner footage, better shadow details and improved low light performance. The difference is especially clear in late afternoon or indoor environments, where the Neo already starts to show noise and softness. The Neo 2 simply holds image quality longer and more consistently. Frame rates are one of the biggest technical jumps between these two drones. The Neo tops out at 4K 30 frames per second, which is fine for casual filming but leaves no room for cinematic slow motion. The Neo 2 doubles the standard frame rate to 4K 60 frames per second and adds a 4K 100 frames per second slow motion mode for action shots, dynamic movements or dramatic reveals. This alone makes the Neo 2 more flexible for creators who want variety in their footage. Stabilization is another major difference. The original Neo uses a simple one-axis mechanical gimbal for tilt and relies on electronic stabilization for everything else. This works for gentle movement, but any fast turns, sideways drifts or sudden speed changes result in visible jitter or wobble. The Neo 2 introduces a true two-axis gimbal with mechanical tilt and roll stabilization. This means that horizon shifts, quick directional movements and minor turbulences are absorbed mechanically rather than patched digitally. As a result, the footage looks cleaner, smoother and far more stable in real-world flight. Electronic stabilization is still used, but now as a complement rather than a crutch. The Neo 2 also expands its shooting modes with vertical 2.7K recording, improved tracking behavior and enhanced creative features such as dolly zoom and master shots. These are modes the original Neo cannot replicate with the same quality or consistency. In short, the Neo captures acceptable 4K footage when conditions are favorable. The Neo 2 captures consistently better, smoother, more flexible footage in almost every environment and is the only one of the two that truly supports modern creative workflows. On paper, the flight time difference between the DJI Neo and the Neo 2 is small. The Neo is rated up to 18 minutes, while the Neo 2 increases that slightly to 19 minutes. In real use, both drones reach roughly 20% less than the official numbers, putting the Neo at around 14 to 15 minutes and the Neo 2 at about 15 to 16 minutes of practical airtime. The reason the Neo 2 does not extend flight time more aggressively is straightforward. Its battery is significantly stronger, but it also powers a much more advanced system. The Neo 2 must supply energy to a brighter display, a redesigned propulsion system, additional visual sensors and a forward-facing LiDAR unit. These systems improve stability, sensing and handling, but they also increase power consumption enough to offset most of the battery gains. In practical flying, the Neo 2 does hold its rated time more consistently. You do not get dramatically longer flights, but you get a drone that performs reliably across different conditions without sudden drops in remaining flight time. Overall, the Neo 2 offers only a minor improvement in flight endurance, but a clear upgrade in the quality of each minute you spend in the air. The sensing systems of the DJI Neo and the Neo 2 operates on completely different levels. The original Neo is equipped only with a downward-facing sensor. This supports takeoff, landing and basic altitude hold, but the drone has no lateral or forward awareness while moving. During tracking, it navigates without any obstacle detection. When following a subject, it cannot detect objects in its path and therefore cannot adjust its trajectory to avoid them. Its tracking path remains simple and less adaptive. The Neo 2 introduces an omnidirectional sensing system. It uses multiple visual sensors placed around the body to monitor its surroundings and adds a forward-facing LiDAR unit. LiDAR provides precise depth information even in low light or high contrast scenarios where purely visual systems typically struggle. This gives the Neo 2 a far broader environmental awareness compared to the Neo. It adjusts its position more intelligently, maintains safer distance and handles changes in directions or speed with greater stability. These differences have direct impact on FocusTrack. Both drones can track hikers, cyclists, motorcyclists and skiers. However, the Neo 2 expands the tracking category with support for vehicle tracking, which the original Neo does not offer. This allows it to maintain lock-on faster and more dynamic subjects. Another practical advantage is that the Neo 2 allows mid-tracking repositioning through gesture control. You can change the drone's angle or framing without stopping the flight, landing or restarting the mode, which makes continuous tracking far more convenient. Additionally, the Neo 2 benefits from a more capable processing pipeline, enabling smoother and more consistent tracking paths across different environments. In short, both drones can track, but only the Neo 2 tracks with environmental awareness, expanded subject support, gesture-based repositioning and the added safety of LiDAR. Both the DJI Neo and the Neo 2 rely on a simple USB-C interface for data and charging, and neither drone has a micro SD card slot. Because of that, internal storage becomes a central part of their technical design. The Neo offers 22 GB of onboarded memory, while the Neo 2 increases this to 49 GB. This allows the Neo 2 to store significantly more 4K footage and autonomous sequences without needing external devices. On the Neo 2, this port is surrounded by 4 mounting points that allow the digital transceiver to be physically attached. This is a purely hardware-level expansion point and does not replace any of the Neo's existing control systems. Wi-Fi performance is another notable distinction. In Wi-Fi only operation, the Neo achieves a practical range of roughly 50 meters, while the Neo 2 extends Wi-Fi use to approximately 500 meters under similar conditions. This refers exclusively to phone-based Wi-Fi control and has nothing to do with RC or goggles operations, which both drones support through their respective control links. The Neo 2 also improves onboard logic and recognition. It can identify the pilot more reliably and supports return to hand behavior, allowing the drone to navigate directly back toward your palm at the end of an autonomous or gesture-driven action. This streamlines quick operations and reduces the need for ground landings. So in summary, the Neo 2 upgrades the underlying technology with more storage, faster charging, extended Wi-Fi capability and smarter interaction, giving it more flexible and efficient technical foundation than the original Neo. So when it comes to pricing, the differences between the Neo and the Neo 2 is much smaller than you would expect from a generational upgrade. Across all packages, the drone-only option, the standard Fly More bundle and the full motion combo, the Neo 2 sits only one pricing tier above the original Neo. Depending on the region, on ongoing promotions, the typical gap between the equivalent bundles is modest, often in the range of roughly 20%. For what the Neo 2 adds in stability, sensing, connectivity, storage and overall handling, that price increase is minimal. You are not looking at a double cost or a premium jump into another product class. You are essentially paying a small uplift for a dramatically more capable drone. Even when comparing the highest tier motion bundles, the Neo 2 remains only slightly more expensive than the Neo's equivalent package. And since both rely on the same accessory ecosystem, RC, motion controller and goggles, the upgrade cost is not inflated by new peripherals. In practical terms, this means one thing. If you're considering either drone today, the Neo 2 is the far better value. So because pricing can vary by region and over time, always check the current DJI website or official retailers for up-to-date numbers. But regardless of the exact figures, the cost gap between the two models is consistently small enough to make the Neo 2 the clear choice. After comparing both drones, the conclusion isn't just obvious, it's almost comical. The original DJI Neo wasn't a bad idea, but let's be honest, it was more a placeholder than a product. A quick answer to the Hover RX1, something to fill a shelf while DJI worked on the real version. And now the Neo 2 exists and the Neo looks exactly like it was. A temporary solution that has already expired. So here's the honest part. The Neo is obsolete, not outdated, not aging, obsolete. If you still own one, the upgrade isn't even a decision, it's damage control. Sure, you could try to sell it, but the real question is, who exactly is the target audience for a Neo first generation now that the Neo 2 exists? Collectors of a discontinued tech? Museums? People who enjoyed limitations for sport? The upgrade differences here isn't like the mini-series where each generation inches forward. This is a full replacement, the kind where the old model quietly leaves through the back door while the new one pretends it never met it. If you want a compact autonomous drone in 2025, the Neo 2 is the only rational choice. The Neo had a brief moment in the sun. The Neo 2 just turned off the lights. Alright folks, that's it for today. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, hit like, subscribe and let me know in the comments what you think about the Neo and the Neo 2. And now do yourself a favor. Close YouTube, go outside, take your drone and actually fly. It will always beat watching someone else do it. Thanks again. I'll see you in the next video. Have a good day. See you. Bye bye.